Well, welcome to the Zag Talk Podcast Live. My name is Guy Danhoff. I'm really excited to bring this episode to you as we're going to talk about the keys to effective video storytelling. And we're going to be joined with in just a second with Drew Burris, who is the MOSHAPE 2021 Missouri State Teacher of the Year. And we're going to go ahead and move forward as we get started with tonight's broadcast. If you have any questions, feel free to go into the comments and certainly ask any questions, or if you want to do any shout outs, feel free to do that. So now as we get going, let's now look at also, I'm going to bring this up. That is one of the things that I've done in all the research is that storytelling is the most underrated skill when it comes to advocacy. And tonight, what we're going to talk about is how we can use storytelling to communicate and connect with our audience. Matter of fact, at MOSHAPE, our theme is actually sharing our story. And that story means our collective story. It means our teacher stories. It means what's going on with some of our administrators, their stories. So tonight, we're going to talk about the impact of using storytelling in an educational setting. So just a few fun facts on video storytelling. Number one is that video retains 95% of a message that people hear. It's also, people have said that you remember stories far better than you remember facts and figures. Another thing is that videos up to 2 minutes long generate the most views. And my third one, my favorite one, I share this all the time, and that is video content generates up to 12 times more shares than graphics, images, and text combined. So at this time, what I'd like to do is bring on our guest, and none other than Drew Burris. And let's bring Drew on. Drew, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm just loving that picture.
I know. We'll get back to that in just a second. So I'm with Drew Burris. Like you said, he is the 2021 MOSHAPE State Teacher of the Year. Drew, I think what I'd like to have our audience learn from you is you use videos in a very unique way. And I'm going to pop up that graphic so we can talk about that. So first of all, let's talk about how you use it for field day. So talk to us what this is that we're looking at, because this is pretty cool. I'm actually going to go full screen for a second.
Okay. For field day, it's usually a very popular time for our videos. About 40 days leading to field day, there's ads that go out every 5 days of an increment, and just kind of to pump kids up. It goes through social media. It goes through our school website as well. We do a recap video of the day along with videos throughout the day of things going on where people can take a look at them and just see the magic of what happens, and people love them. We do a trailer. I started a couple of years ago and made a trailer because I was kind of tired of people asking, well, what's next year's going to be? Because they're just so excited. They wanted to know what next year was, because they had a little bit of a taste of what it was if that was their first year, and they wanted the whole thing. So I made trailers with myself and my family, and we would preview what next year's theme was going to be. And it caught storm the first time when I did that, and I thought I got to keep doing it every year. So it's fun. It's fun to make all those things. The kids love it. Teachers love it. It's just part of my creativity.
Yeah. So Drew, one of the things that impressed upon me, because I've been there twice now, your last 2 years, as you did one that was kind of Disney themed, and this past year we're certainly on Ghostbusters. What I loved is how you would make these video trailers and as a way to hype up your entire school. But what I found fascinating is you had buy-in from the entire school, from your admins on down to your teachers, walking around to all the different stations. And I'm going to put up a graphic here. Yeah. Maybe you can speak to this, because it was really phenomenal, the reaction of the kids.
Catching their smiles and laughter on video or in picture like that. Yeah, the kids had a blast doing that. And that's what we do. I also do videos for school. So if we do an activity, this is during our summer school this year, I'll videotape them, and I either talk about the instructions on the video, or I just let them go so people can hear, like I said, them having a blast and laughing and learning things at the same time. Or if I put it up on Twitter as well, I'll put a lesson visual or a video visual up just explaining how everything works. And it gets pretty good views.
It gets actually very good views. Matter of fact, the ones that you do related to teaching
Mhm.
are somewhere in the average of around 4 to 5,000 views, which is a lot of views for that type of content. So, obviously kudos to you.
Thank you.
And talk to us a little bit about, let me go split screen here. Talk to us a little bit about how long you've been making videos, because you just didn't start this in the last couple of years. I want to say you've been doing this for at least 10 to 12 years. Is that about right?
Yeah, about 2015, I think I started, because that was when I joined Twitter and was seeing all the stuff that people were putting up and showing their students play and learn different things and just, being excited. So I wanted to share my story, what it was like in my school with my students. And then, field day started just becoming a very popular thing around. And I wanted to film that, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger every year.
So, Drew, one of the things I want you to speak to is when you make these videos, obviously you have the field day ones, but then you have the ones that you shoot actually in your classes, sometimes live
Mhm.
and
Yep.
sometimes certainly recorded. But sometimes you even make these videos where you'll actually put into the information that these activities align with the National Physical Educational Standards. Could you maybe speak to that a little bit?
The lesson visuals that I put up there, along with the video visuals, every lesson I've ever made connects with the standards. When I was in Shape NOLA presenting at my presentation, I had somebody come up and say, "These are some excellent activities we could do for a class, but how does it tie in with the state and the Shape standards?" And I said, at
Right.
the bottom right of each lesson plan, you're going to see a little orange box, and it's going to have letters and numbers at the bottom, and that connects it. And the guy was like, "Well, I was just testing you. I already knew that." I was like, "Good question, very good question." But yeah, it does everything we do. We don't just do stuff just for fun. We are also learning as well. So it's a mixture of everything involved with that.
Absolutely. So, with this, talk to us about this picture, because I was there when this was shot, and this is pretty cool. So, what is going on here? What's with the goggles? And I know this is on your field day, but what are we seeing here?
This was our it was part of the Ghostbusters one. It was our ecto goggle station. So I took gator skin balls and I wrapped them up in like tissue paper, and those were the ghosts.
Okay.
So even though it's light outside, I used the parachute to kind of try to make it dark as I could be. So there's ghosts placed all on the grass underneath the parachute. So like in the movie, the only way they can really see the ghost sometimes, like in the dark, is if they had the goggles on. So it was like kind of
Right.
like night vision goggles. So I found some on Amazon, decently priced, and we had the students wear those and try to make their way through the parachute without touching the ghosts. And I always like to be right in the middle of it, so I just went on the other side, flapped the parachute up, and just got a quick picture. Priceless. It tells you, I mean, just those goggles were kind of tough to see out of as well, because I went through it, and I know the kids probably were struggling. You could flip them up, so we modified it a little bit where if they couldn't really see that well, they got to flip them up and just get through there.
Well,
So
once again, Drew, just goes to show how innovative you are with all those different stations. And this is another station maybe you can comment on, because again, I had the privilege of videotaping a lot of this, to do some coverage. And here we go. Talk to us about this activity.
So this was our "Don't Cross the Streams." That was one of the most popular lines in Ghostbusters. "Don't cross the streams," or just like everything's going to implode. So the colors of the stream from the proton pack, red and blue. So the string, red and blue, I crisscrossed them through yarn, tied it to one post, threw it over, threw it to the next one. It took quite some time to do that, but their job was to crawl underneath the strings, and they were up high enough to where they're not going to get kind of clothesline by it at all, so making it safe.
Right.
So just them basically army crawling, or that one student's on his hands and feet basically up in the air, just a blast. It is like a relay race for them getting through there as quick as they can, because then they want to go back to the beginning and do it all over again.
Absolutely. So, Drew, talk to us about, you know, one thing you did is obviously for field day. As you know, we were able also to interview some of your fellow teachers,
Uh,
even a few of your students. I know last year we actually did your admin. So this
yeah.
is a great way that we were using video to help share the story of your field day. The second thing I've seen you use videos for is obviously, like you just talked about, you've done a great job with sharing almost, I don't know, a few times a week a lot of the
Yep.
activities that you're involved in. So that's also very exciting. But I want to talk about one third thing that you do, and I want to shout this out to anyone that's whether you're on a whether you're a state leader in any of the health and physical education state associations, like we belong to MOSHAPE. But we had the opportunity recently, just a few months ago, both of us were in Shape New Orleans at Shape NOLA, and talked to us about how Joey Martelli, who's obviously with Shape America, he oversees some of their public relations, but he also helps us with our social media team. Talk to us about how you were using video in that context during the convention.
I got an email from Joey. I think it was probably a couple weeks prior to going to New Orleans, and he said he wanted me to join the Shape social media team for the convention. I thought, well, this could be fun. I thought, I do this basically for a living. This could be fun. And then I thought, well, this is the grandest stage of them all. I mean, this is the national convention. I thought, I don't want to make sure I don't mess up at all. So right. I remember when we went and met him, and he was like, okay, so you're going to run the video for Twitter. I said, okay. And he gave me the most easiest job description I've ever heard in my life. And it was just 2 words, be you. And I was like, is that it? He said, be you. He goes, I watch what you do. I know what you're capable of doing. Do what you do on a daily basis. And I said, okay, so I'm just filming myself walking down the street saying, I'm getting ready to go into the first day of the convention.
Right.
Throughout the whole week, I went into different sessions. I found like the toy session, videotaped them, different people from different states. I even videotaped myself walking into my own session, and then it was a blast. I mean, he said he loved it. So I think I did a good job. I didn't really feel much pressure until he said, just do what you're good at. And I thought, piece of cake. So I think he was pleased.
So Drew, and I'm saying this, obviously you and I have known each other for years at MOSHAPE. So, but I do want to share a slight secret with maybe the entire country. And here's what I'd like to ask you. Just a few years ago, Dr. Dennis Jochef was our president. And I can remember vividly, and a couple of times when we were at convention or we were in planning for convention, and he had referenced you, and he would always call you quirky. So what does it mean by quirky? Because I know that's related to you being yourself, but what does he mean? Because he knows you really well, because obviously, isn't it that his wife works at your school part-time, something like that? Yeah.
I think he was showering me with love when he called me that. I've known that man for 18 years. He was my first college professor with going into the physical education field. He's not always nice when he grades papers, but he does a very, very good job. I do miss him. I talk to him on about every 3rd week basis just to kind of see what's going on with him and check in on him and everything. But I think he sees that I could be, maybe I went over above his standards. Maybe I did better than he thought I would. But no, he knows I love what I do. And, his wife has seen what I'm able to do with the students in the school, as well as just, he knows I have a big creative side. And
absolutely,
I'm able to show that. And I'm going to assume, I'll speak for him, that quirky means that I'm very creative at what I do. So
yeah, I would agree, but I just thought the whole nation should hear that, because it was the funniest thing in the world when we were, when one of our planning meetings and referenced you as quirky. We're like, what?
Yeah, I heard that. I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Well, anyways, we want to give a few shout outs. So we have the 2022 Shape America Health Education Teacher of the Year in the house, Jessica Matheson. And yeah, she's echoing what you're saying, Drew. BU, great advice. And also, we've got Barb back in for the 2nd week. No kidding. You did an amazing job at Shape NOLA. Thank you, Barb. Great having you again on the podcast. Also, thanks for the information from last Tuesday's podcast, certainly on using that video editing tool. So, Drew, what we're going to do now is we're going to bring on, I know this is no surprise to you, but we're going to bring on a ZagBomb guest.
Okay.
And my guest is actually going to be, drum roll, here we go. And we are going to bring on Megan Peterman. She is the marketing communications specialist. We actually did a show 3 weeks ago as we talked about the importance and the value of using social media for advocacy and marketing. Without further ado, let's bring on Megan. Megan, how are you?
I am great, Guy. How are you guys tonight?
We are great. This is great for you to come on. And, Megan, we talked obviously how Drew Burris actually uses video. Obviously, he uses it for his field days, for all his promotion, doing his recaps, even doing interviews. I mean, showing his activities. He also uses it in the classroom and his PE, classes. And obviously, you just heard he actually will go around during conventions and he'll put together these short, under 2-minute videos. So, what I thought we would do though is maybe just take a little different look on also why video storytelling is so important. So, with that, why don't you give us kind of, what's really why you feel video storytelling is so impactful and important at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I love video storytelling because ultimately it takes kind of everything that you're looking to do on social media and like compacts it into a fast, fun, easy to produce, easy in a relative sense, to produce sort of format. And so the first thing I think it's really good at is it's just an instant way to establish a personal connection, because that's goal number one for social media and for creating an online presence, creating advocacy, drawing attention to whatever it is that you're looking to do. It is first and foremost establishing that personal connection, because if you're not using video, then what do you have to use? You've got, graphics, verbiage, all of these things that you certainly can. But if I love what you said, Drew, just now about kind of being you. Once you point a smartphone at your face and you start recording, you are that's the only option you've got. And it's great because I think a lot of times when we approach social media, it's important to be strategic and thoughtful, but sometimes I think we can miss the forest for the trees and we overthink it. And so video is a great way to just have that instant personal connection.
So talk to us about maybe your second point of why you feel video storytelling is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really fast way to disseminate knowledge. If you're trying to position yourself as a thought leader, subject matter expert, which I'll spoil that for you. Yes, you are, because you've got something to share with the world and people want to hear it. And that's going to be a good way to advocate. But if you're like me, the ideas for blog and article posts are just endless. And so, it's like, wow, if I ever have time, I'm going to be able to sit down and have all of this great content that I'm going to be built out there. But life's busy. Sometimes that time is really, really scarce. And so, again, being able to just point a smartphone at yourself and give a quick 1 to 2 minute, hey, here is a tip on this piece of information. Or I work with authors a lot in my field of work. We had a guy just this last week. He's a craftsman. And I was like, hey, what you need to do is you need to do these like 60-second videos of you just being in your element, doing what you do, and giving tips on it. And what it's going to do is it's going to make, A, people are going to love it. People love to see that in the moment sort of field work. And B, you're going to be providing a lot of knowledge. And people are, rather than having to say, hey, I've got all this expertise, you're showing it.
What do you mean by thought leadership, though? Because I know that's something else that you talked about. What does that specifically mean?
Yeah, thought leadership, what that does is basically it's putting yourself out there as someone to whom people go to for knowledge or advice. And you have these people in your life, whether you know it or not. It might be for professional development, or it might be for something as simple as recipes. I know if I'm going to go cook something, I've got a couple specific people on YouTube that I follow for the recipes because they're amazing every time. And so whatever field that you're in, whatever you're involved in, if you are establishing yourself as a thought leader, you're someone's go-to. And so when they have questions, they're going to look at your content. Or even if they don't have questions, if you are constantly putting forth that quality content, they're going to come to you anyway.
Absolutely. And so to kind of wrap up your three big points, talk to us about what you mean by evergreen content.
Yeah, evergreen content. So, first of all, just a quick definition. Evergreen content is just like an evergreen tree, content that it doesn't matter when it's put out, it's always going to be relevant. So, how to make a Christmas card is probably not going to be relevant, right now with the start of school coming out. So, I'm probably not going to, put out a short video on that anytime soon. But if you are putting out information that is applicable year round and year upon year, then you don't have to create a new piece of video content every time you need to post. You can go back to your arsenal. And I know, Guy, that you have got some of your biggest success with reposting some of your most content.
Well, the repurposing is very big, and that's why, again, using evergreen content is so important. Now, I'll give that as a context to certainly the world of health and physical education. That would be doing videos along the lines of social and emotional learning, social and emotional well-being. Could be on self-care. It could be even on showing, and like what Drew does. He's a specialist, right? As a physical education teacher, he has all these different physical activities. Even some of can even branch into the fitness. Depending on some schools, you might even be involved in your school wellness programs. So some of that content can, certain nutrition, obviously, these are all the different things that could be considered evergreen content that once you make that video, it can stay up on your YouTube channel or any of your platforms for quite some time. But the great thing about having it in YouTube, it's always going to be there and it's searchable, versus on the other platforms, as you know, it's a quick news cycle on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok and Facebook that once it's gone, it's kind of gone unless you repurpose it. So that's why the YouTube strategy would be pretty smart. Anything you want to add as we wrap up your segment?
Again, I don't want to be a copycat, but I kind of have to be. Drew just gave such a great point of be you. I kind of find it works really, really well if, you do a couple of runs and it's like, okay, now I've shaken off the coldness. I've shaken off the informality. Feel free to go a little overboard, be a little bit overly quirky, because chances are you are not going to translate as quickly. Yeah, there you go. Copycat in more ways than one tonight, I guess. But yeah, so feel free to really get out there, because you're not going to be as in someone's face as you think, as if it was in person. So you can be a little out there with your video content.
Absolutely. And Megan, we want to thank you so much for zag bombing in. Certainly, if you want to just give us one quick recap on your 3 points on why video storytelling, we just want to thank you for being on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Pleasure to join. So first thing, it's going to do exactly what your main goal is, which is to establish a personal connection and to create community really, really fast. Second, you're going to establish yourself as an expert really pretty quickly by putting forth quality content in your videos. And 3, with those quality videos, you have just given yourself evergreen content that you can repurpose whenever you need to.
All right, there you have it. Megan Peterman, want to say thanks for jumping in on the Zag Bomb right here on the Zag Talk Podcast Live.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. All right, Drew. So there you go. She even used the word quirky. Yeah. I know. She even said it. And yeah, Barb, thanks, Megan. Yeah, Megan's been awesome. Been working with her, and I'm pretty confident we'll do a few more Zag Talk Podcast Live in the future. She's really amazing and brings lots of energy and ideas to the table always on how to leverage, digital and social. So with that, Drew, I have a question for you. It's one thing to have one elementary teacher of the year, right?
Right.
That was a state winner. But what would you think the show would be like if we had 2?
Pretty big.
Be very big. So without further ado, what we're going to do is we are actually going to bring on now. It's going to be Danielle O'Neill, and Danielle is our 2022 MOSHAPE State Teacher of the Year. This was just announced just a few days ago. And Danielle, how are you doing? And I only show this graphic because obviously you're no stranger to Zag bombing or being actually a featured guest on the show, obviously, as we did this episode a few months ago. But Danielle, what's it been like, being now named the 2022 Teacher of the Year and following in the footsteps of Drew Burris?
Those are some pretty big shoes. I'm ready to join the quirkiness. So
30 times.
Yeah, it's been pretty surreal. I got a lot of things going on. I have a new school building this year, and so it's a lot, but it's exciting.
Yeah. So Danielle, talk to us a little bit. You have done a lot in the space of Instagram, obviously, which is why I just showed that graphic. And well, before we get into the TikTok, let's just start on the Instagram side. Let all our viewers know how you use video for storytelling with the different types of ways that you create content.
Yeah, and I usually cross post, so I'll post the same thing on Twitter that I post on Instagram as well. I just think about the kind of things that I look for and what kind of videos I would like to see. I no longer now go to PE Central to look for activities. Now, they have wonderful activities, don't get me wrong, but I'm just so visual. I'm looking for the videos. And so I'll go to Twitter or Instagram and use the hashtag physed or whatever and look for those different videos that show the specific activities I'm looking for. And so that's what I put out. If I feel like I got a great activity that aligns with the standards and that my students really enjoy, I'll do a quick, 2-minute video or so. I'll video the kids doing it while they're doing the activity. I'll have the directions. I'll be saying them. That way that keeps my initial caption pretty short. So people aren't having to read anything. It's all in the video. And I really liked sharing my videos because I didn't teach in a traditional PE space. I didn't have a gym. I had the little cafenasium, your little cafeteria, ceramic tile, tiny little area. And so I was able to show all these great activities that people can modify if they have spaces like mine. But I love those short little videos. Like I said, I enjoy them, and I think other people do too. I get a lot of comments like, "Oh, great video. Thanks for sharing." But I also can add them as reels, which I think reels on Instagram gets a little bit more traction. And if your video is short enough, you can post it on the reels. And so that's how I upload those videos on there. And then I do stories a lot too. I don't do the stories as much on my Coach O'Neill page. I do it on my personal Instagram page.
Right.
But for example, for the MOSHAPE convention last year, I ran the stories. And so I love the interactiveness of those because those clips are up to 15 seconds long. And you can put little polls on there, quizzes, people can shoot you a message through it. And so running that and I know I did one on Drew Burris. He had his field day event or field day session. And I took a little picture, a little short video of him. And there was a little pop-up quiz that was like, how many field day shirts is Drew Burris wearing right now? And so people got to guess. And I think there was like 75 people who put in their guesses.
Jeez.
And so it was pretty fun.
Yeah. And Danielle, you were on this past Tuesday, not as a guest, but you were just, wanting to soak up more information with Michelle Huff and I. Obviously, my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter also shared her crazy story of how she got 2.1 million views on one of the videos she was part of. But you now have also gone into the TikTok route. Kind of share, with our audience, what's it been like since you fired up your TikTok account and how you plan on using it moving forward?
Yeah. So I've had TikTok for a while now. I've been kind of just like a looker. I haven't really posted anything. And I started out like personal page. I had a couple of videos of my kids and stuff. But after watching your session last Tuesday, I decided to switch it up and post more about, physical education. So I changed my name to Coach O'Neill. I popped in a few videos that I had in the past. I just have a lot of content of you, Drew, because I posted, it was 7 seconds. So it's a short little video. And it's one little activity in Drew's session, and it was your raptor run. So the guys are like this, doing their little thing and picking up the balls. And I put the Jurassic Park theme in the background and just was like, hey, come to our November convention for more fun activities like this. And, that's gained quite a bit of traction and views and got people engaged. And I just started doing this 3 days. I've got 3 days worth. I posted maybe 4 videos and I gained about 60 followers.
Right.
So it doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't. And that's something that we talked about on Tuesday, that, you don't have to have very many followers, but if you put out some quality content that people are searching and using the hashtags, you can see those kind of results, Daniel, like you're having. The other thing I wanted to share with everyone, we talked about Drew a little earlier, of how he was involved on the social media team for Shape America at Shape NOLA, but so were you. Why don't you tell the audience, Danielle, of your involvement in what Joey, assigned you to do, during obviously the 4-day convention.
Yeah, so I had an Instagram day takeover. And so I got to post a few regular posts on their Instagram page, but I mainly ran the stories again. So
Right.
A lot of that interactive content. I know I filmed a short little clip of me climbing the rock wall, and then put that on there, and just, how fast can you climb it, or something interactive that was on there, or what was your favorite exhibitor booth, and then a couple of short snippets of the different sessions and stuff. So it was kind of like a day in the life of a PE teacher at the convention. Right. So that was pretty exciting to get to do that.
I filmed that, you climbing up the wall.
Yeah, me and Drew, probably one of the best things about me joining MOSHAPE is getting to be a partner with Drew Burris. So I'm very proud to call you a friend and a colleague. So
I got you.
Wonderful.
Well, I will say this, both of you are also part of the MOSHAPE media team, and we're certainly looking forward to having both of you involved again as we do our state convention in November. But what all three of us were involved with at Shape NOLA was very special, because as we shared something all in common that was just very special. And that was that the Shape NOLA hashtag was trending #1 by day 3 on Twitter in New Orleans. And that was just a complete team effort. It was so amazing to have that kind of reach and influence and impact. And yet it took the collective efforts of what we were doing collectively, just with the different types of content we were creating and sharing and getting people to engage in. So with that, Danielle, I want you to hang around for this next segment, because I'm actually going to talk about one of the questions we get asked. And I shared this one slide and got a lot of impact, or a lot of intrigue when we were going through. So I'm going to pull that slide now. And that is, when you think about creating a video, what are things you have to think about? And this is what we're calling the 5 elements of creating a video. And I'll get both of you to weigh in on it. But the first one that I want to identify is lighting. And, if you have a smartphone, I can just say this, that the smartphone does a great job in natural lighting. It is fantastic for outdoors most of the time. However, in some cases, there's different types of lighting that you can use that's very important. So with that, I was wondering, Drew, we'll start with you. Is there anything that you do special with lighting at all?
Not really. If we go outside, the sun takes care of most of it. If there's no sun, we're not outside. The gym that I'm in has really good lighting, so we never really have an issue with that. So I use my iPad to film everything. I only use my phone sometimes, which it's not good quality, but the iPad does very well for the lighting for the activities.
Right. And Danielle, how about you? Anything special on lighting?
Not for my videos, no. Right now I've got a ring light that's just blasting on my face. A lot of creators like the ring light, and I do too. It's a little bit bright. I put on its lowest setting, but the ring light, I think, really takes care of like those shadows and stuff. So if you're going to do a video where you're talking to it, I know a lot of people like to use those.
Absolutely. So the next thing is, let's talk about stabilization. And, I can tell you this, is that I use 3 different types of stabilization. I have like a kind of a handheld that you can use, obviously that fits your iPhone really easily. I also have a 6-foot tripod that also fits very easily. And last but not least, and I think both of you saw this video that I did when we recently, Chris was with us. Yeah, right here. When Chris Staley was with us, who's our chair of marketing communications. When we were there, I filmed him and Anna, our president. And we filmed their interview, but we also used my gimbal to get the beautiful views of the lake and the buildings and certainly that new rooftop. So stabilization is really important. Now, today's phones do a pretty good job of keeping things stable as is. So again, you don't necessarily have to go out and get that. But if you really want to add some variety that'd be a great thing that you could do, is to get yourself like a, whether it's a 6-foot tripod or like a desktop tripod. Anything you two want to add to that?
I use a cart. I use my pedometer cart, and I'll take like a push-up block and push the iPad against it. So if it's like moving very quickly, I can get like better like angles of students playing. That helps.
Right.
If I'm not using the cart, I just use my hands. The only time I ever use the tripod is if I'm filming, like, and it's just me where I need to be like in front of the green screen. That's about the only time I use a tripod.
Yeah. And Danielle, how about you?
That's the same. I usually have my phone, and I'm usually going around. That way I can get up close or look at the different angles. So I just try to hold it really tight and be really smooth.
Exactly. So all we're just trying to say is there's all the different ways that you can do that. Now, number 3 is audio. Now, I will tell you this, that, and I've heard so many experts talk about this, and I'm just going to switch the screen view for a second. And that is, when you talk about audio, a lot of experts would say that 50% of your video is audio, and I have a tendency to agree with them. And I use a variety of different audio. I will actually use, they're called GoPros, made by Rode, and they're lavalier microphones that, attach to your clothing, and then you can have a lavalier clip. I also use a shotgun mic that just attaches right to the, end of the phone. Which is also another great way that you can, capture pro audio into your iPhone or to your, iPad device. But you can use, and I'll bring our panelists back in. And Drew, I know that there's certainly nothing wrong with using the iPhone, or if you have an Android device, using the microphones on their devices. They do a good job, but I have found that if you really want to refine your audio, especially outside, using these devices that I was talking about, you can get pretty inexpensive, from $30 to $60. Now, if you get the full Rode system with the lapel mics and all that, that's going to run you up to probably $300 for that whole set of getting 2 transmitters and 1 transmitter and 2 receivers. So anything special you do with audio?
No, I just use the iPad. When I first started using the iPad mini, I got like a little tiny microphone that could go in the aux plug in, and it did okay, but I was just, you got to see that thing hanging out of there every time, and you wanted to focus more on that than what was going on screen. I use what's already built into the iPad or my phone. So
yeah, like what Barb just said. I sometimes use a tripod and stick it on the scooter. Now that is awesome. I'm gonna have to find some of Barb's videos, and for Throwback Thursday, I think we're gonna have to, hijack a few of them. Either that, Barb, or just direct message me on Twitter at Guy Danhoff. Send me a video. I'd love to highlight and feature it, especially that's what I would call, scooter cam. It'd be kind of fun to see that. So yeah, thanks, Barb, for giving us that tip. Danielle, anything special you do with audio?
Not really. Usually whenever I'm filming during my classes, I've got my music going, and then with the kids playing, it's a little bit louder. So I just make it a note that whenever I do have my phone and I'm filming, like, I keep it kind of close to my face. That way you can hear my voice pretty loud whenever I'm giving those directions on how to do the activity. Yep.
All right. Now we're going to go into resolution. I'll just speak on this. It's pretty simple. You got really 3 options. You have 24K, you have 30K, and you have 60K. And I will say this, that if you want more of a cinematic look, using 24K would be great. Again, these are all things on your iPhone or your smartphone devices, especially today in 2022, 2021. Really, in the last few years, they all have these different resolutions. We shoot most of ours at MOSHAPE. We shoot most of ours in 4K and at 30 frames per second. So again, you got these different options. You can shoot in 1080 HD, but 4K is really what we use as a standard. I know Shape America uses that as a standard. I know and both who this is, and that is our Emmy award-winning videographer that certainly shows up at he does specialty videos for us, with us. Obviously, all the On the Move videos that we do in conjunction with Missouri Healthy Schools, we shoot that in 4K at 30 frames per second. So again, that's the resolution that we use kind of as a standard. Anything else, Drew or Danielle, on that? Okay. So the last point we want to make is when you look at the 5 elements of creating a video, then you have to sit there and say, what is the overall quality of the video production? And meaning, how is it packaged? I mean, is, again, every aspect has to be looked at when you do the playback. Do you have the audio levels right? Do you have stable, a stable picture? Are you getting the different desired effects that you want? Is there any editing that you may need to do? And so that is really the last part of this, is you got to then look at and say, is there anything I need to change? It could be sometimes as simple as, hey, I'm going to put text on the graphics, right? On the video itself. Sometimes they can be too small, or sometimes they can be in a font you can't read very well. I can tell you this from making videos every single week with what I do with making on the move videos for Missouri Healthy Schools. Sometimes I actually have done that. So when you talk about overall video production, and Drew, I'm going to throw this to you because you've been making videos for a long time. Any insights that you want to share on that?
My main thing is it going to reach my audience. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I'm making the videos is, it's for people to see. So is it going to have an impact on the audience that's seeing it, thinking this is really good stuff to be sharing? So that's what I was if I ever videotape, that's what my ultimate goal is, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to make it look nice and neat in the way I want it, and then put it out there, hoping that it reaches an audience, for example, for PE teachers, seeing stuff they would love to use with their kids as well.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, Chris Staley just chimed in. Exactly. Kind of what we use as a standard is 4K 30 frames per second. It gives a great resolution. It can be shared across all kinds of platforms. And that's what's also really good. One thing that I don't have on that last slide, but we'll talk about this, and that is, I'll show this. Actually, I'm going to go to a different view. I'm going to go to this view. So if you look at this, when you shoot kind of like a YouTube video, this is what we call horizontal. And that's great for shooting content that you want to put on, say, YouTube type of content. But if you wanted to use for like Instagram or particularly TikTok, you want to shoot in more of a vertical format. And yes, this does matter to do that, because I can tell you this on the TikTok side, as I learned from Michelle Huff, and I actually learned this also from my daughter, that if you shoot TikTok like this, it only takes up such a small percentage of that screen versus here. It's going to take up the whole screen. So again, you want to be mindful of what platform you're on, so what position that you want to shoot in. Daniel, we'll start with you on that. Anything you want to add to that?
One feature on TikTok that what made me think of this is whenever you talked about adding text to your screen,
Right.
They have a button where you can click closed captioning, and then it automatically adds in all those words. That's something I really enjoyed. I uploaded, I think it was, I can't remember which activity it was now. I just uploaded one on TikTok, but I clicked on the closed captioning and it was able to generate every single thing I said word for word. And then
Right.
if maybe it misheard me and it put down a different word, I could edit it to correct that. And so if somebody is hard of hearing, they can still follow along with my video by, reading it as I'm saying it.
Right.
So I really enjoyed that feature.
And Daniel, with that, you can actually go in, because I've actually just used it on my last 2 TikTok videos. You can go in line by line and you can make any changes. So if there's something that it doesn't get right in the transcription. So that's really cool to add that. Yeah, great tip. We got Chris shouting out to you on something. Danielle, ask your new principal to film for you when they come to observe you, because I did.
Yeah.
Little inside joke there. So, all right. So the next thing I want to do is kind of as we start to begin to wind down the show, and that is, let's talk about kind of recapping the different types of, hey, what can I share? How can I leverage my video storytelling? And the first one, as all of you know, that is, you could be making advocacy success stories. And a few examples I'm going to give you is, again, if you want to see these, you can go to Missouri Healthy Schools on YouTube, and all you have to do is just put in the playlist On the Move. And you'll see something like 14 videos that we've made. We average 1 a month. Those videos are funded through an 1801 grant by the CDC. And matter of fact, the CDC has actually used 3 of those videos, school highlights, with their newsletters. So again, that's one easy thing that you can do. Another thing you can do is make a video. Like I just worked with Shape America on a video that was just on social emotional learning. And that's another type of thing you can do. So success stories is a very easy way to make, content that's going to be, viewed and shared. Number two, and that is, this is what Chris Staley has been doing actually this past week. And that is, looking at, highlighting through video and interviews, state association member and teacher of the year stories. And I know that he's also going to do a live story for our 3 state winners for elementary, middle school, and high school. He's going to do a live stream on that, but also he's been doing these short 2-minute videos, getting a reaction from each of you. And Danielle, I know you just made your video just a few days ago. And anything you want to share about that experience? Because I think that was obviously pretty cool. And I kind of caught you in a raw and real moment.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty hard to try to keep that under 2 minutes because I could talk forever about it. Kind of like with that top bullet point that you had on there about sharing like success stories. Like I feel like I've had such a story. I mean, I've going on my 9th year of teaching, but just about to start year 5 of PE. And so my past 4 years, my first year, I went from crying in my car, ready to quit physical education altogether and go work somewhere else, to here I am. Last year, I won Southwest District Teacher of the Year. This year, I won state. And I want to share my story as much as I possibly can. And I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm very real about it. And, I'm there if anyone needs me. And I'm there to, share my tips and tricks and what helped me just mentally get through, and the practices that I did that I saw made a difference with the students that I was working with. And so I haven't quite reached into that on my social media platform yet, but I really want to.
Yeah. So. And Drew, with you on that same topic, obviously, also share with us, because we put out a highlight video from our convention from 2021, just last November. And you're actually featured right away in the very opening. And you were talking about why you do what you do. Why is that so important as part of, again, using video for that storytelling? Why is sharing your why so important?
Just to show how the students are in class, and making sure that PE, I said, is like, some people think it's like a terror place where they run all the time or they do exercises. I mean, our job as physical education teachers, I know, especially like in the elementary level, is for them to basically have fun and learn at the same time. So setting goals for themselves and showing that enjoyment. I mean, that's part of why I do all this, because I want to share what I know to them so they'll learn these things and they're having fun in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, now we get into, obviously, this is what we've been talking about pretty much the whole episode. And that is, what do I share? Well, physical activities, fitness activities, skill-based activities, or skill-based things that students can learn, as well as another aspect to this is teachers sharing with other teachers on some ideas and how to maybe do things. And also events. There's always all kinds of events. Obviously, you have your state events, your district events, certainly the national events. But this is another thing that'd be very easy to share through videos and getting people not just to talk about what's going to happen, but give a little more depth. And so, again, you can get into more of the story and the background and behind the scenes. These are all things that we can share. And I was just wondering if you wanted to comment, bring you both back in now. And Drew, let's start with you. What's your main driver when you're making content for your students?
To share with other teachers. You're going to show what you're doing in class, and you never know, one little thing that you put up could make a teacher's whole year, and also make their students fall like just head over heels for PE if they did not like it. So sharing what you're doing, and if somebody catches a glimpse of that, it could change the whole year for them. Or career, it could change it to where they think that they can get through this, and not have to make it to be such a bad thing when it's not.
Right. And Danielle, how about you? How do you approach, making videos for physical activity and or skills?
Pretty much the same. I really try to make my content relatable to other people. Like I said before, I taught in a little cafeteria space, and I was a travel teacher. I went to 3 different schools every week. And so just making that content that's relatable and sharing those ideas and how you can modify a gym activity to fit inside this little cafeteria space. And, having a little space, but having your kids of 25 kids in a class, how can you keep them all moving at once?
Right. All right. So the last part, and this goes more for, again, what I would consider for those, state associations, when you're thinking about what kind of content should we share. And I know Megan Peterman talked about this earlier, but I just want to recap for everyone. One of the best strategies that you can do is to create evergreen content. And that's content that can stay relevant for a few years. Again, you have all these different topics that you can talk on. I'm going to open this up to our live audience. If you have any ideas of what you think great evergreen content would be, why don't you just put it in the comments, and we'll flash it up on the screen. While we're waiting for you to do that, I'll just, recap a few of them. Again, you could be making videos on social emotional learning, social emotional well-being. It could be on sustainability. It could be on, school wellness initiatives. It could be related to school nutrition. Could be on physical activities or a certain skill set or how you play a game. There's just so many things that you can do to make evergreen content. And so that's just something that just want to give everyone. Here's one right now. Yeah, this is Barb. Great one. Yeah, a great one would be make a video on classroom management. Again, there's a lot of future professionals. There's a lot of, young professionals that are out there, and how to use classroom management, especially today in the era of COVID. This would be something that'd be very worthwhile. So Barb, thanks for sharing that as, again, another type of evergreen content. And so with that, I want to just kind of, as we get ready and set to wrap up, I just want to encourage everyone, if you've not seen our Zag Talk podcast live from this past Tuesday, you can certainly go to Shape America's Twitter, or you can go just directly to their YouTube channel. You can see the broadcast. I know that we had a lot of engagement. The broadcast itself was really fun because it was like almost nonstop with, comments and questions. But if you want to look at if TikTok's for you, again, is one of the newer video platforms. Again, we've got this special podcast made for you. It was co-hosted with Michelle Huff. Chris Staley was on as well, as he was talking about more from a state organization standpoint, and even shared a little bit about how he uses it personally. And even my 16-year-old daughter was on, so that everyone could hear from a student's perspective just kind of the culture and the way some students are using TikTok today. So as we kind of wrap things up, I just want to say thank you to having Drew and Danielle. Obviously, this is a very special broadcast for me because both of you are in consecutive years, our 2021 in respect to 2022 elementary physical education state level teachers of the year. And I really appreciate so much all the insights and just being vulnerable. And Drew, I love what you said, just be you. And Danielle also just on, looking at, when you make videos, it's about other people and not about yourself. It's about making it for the viewer. It's about making it for the audience. So with that, to wrap up the show, Danielle, we'll start with you. We'll give you the final word, then Drew, and then I'll give us a final wrap up. So Danielle, what's your final word?
I think just get started. That's kind of how I felt. I've been wanting to start on TikTok for a while. And, Guy's podcast that he had last week, that kind of just pushed me to it. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to post one, and then I'm going to post another. And it just kind of adds up. And, kind of like what Guy just said, it's not about what you're posting about yourself. It's how are you able to help others in the videos that you're posting. And so just got to take that leap one step at a time.
Absolutely. And Drew, how about a final word from you?
I agree what she said. There's going to be trial and error in all this. I know the first video I ever put out, it really didn't do anything in all honesty, but I think as it goes down the road, you're going to get better. You're going to see new tips and tricks of how you can make it more providable for everybody, especially in our education. You just got to give it a try, see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And the last thing that I want to share, and again, I'm going to say this more to state associations in terms of video storytelling. I can tell you from making 1.5 years worth of on the move Mo videos that is going in and not just shooting just an interview, but going in and shooting lots of B-roll. That's kind of like background roll of students, live in their classes, and putting together these videos to tell these stories. It could be on the WISC model, the whole school, whole child, whole community. You know, we've done videos even on when we were going through vaccinations. We even did our very first video was on National Teacher Appreciation Week. So there's so many different things that you can do. And all I would say is I would encourage you to look at how can you put videos out there between 30 seconds to 2 minutes and really, you know, get lots of views, but be able to connect and build relationships with your audience. And I just can't, you know, say that enough, that the power of video. And also, again, the last big statistic is, as we've learned and looking at from multiple sources, is that videos generate 1,200% more shares than graphics, pictures, and text combined. Again, this isn't rocket science here or rocket surgery or whatever you want to call it. This is practical and it's fun to make these videos. And there's so many different ways you can make it. All you need, honestly, today is this. This is all we need. You know, this is all we need is our smart devices, our smartphones. You know, we're very blessed that they shoot in 4K, that they give us 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second. And it's really easy to produce these videos and certainly, you know, create a story that people want to learn more about. And what I love about it is always doing also the, you know, the interviews with our teachers of the year. I just love hearing from thought leaders and learning more about certain topics or subjects. Like, for example, I didn't know a whole lot about skills-based health until I met Brad Brummel and also, you know, Dr. Kim Goforth. I learned a ton from those two, all on skills-based health. Why? Because they made a whole big series of YouTube videos on all these different aspects. So again, Daniel, I want to thank you, and Drew, thank you for being on. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast right here on the Zag Talk Live. So for Danielle O'Neill, for Drew Burris, I'm Guy Danhoff. We want to thank you for watching tonight right here on the Zag Talk Podcast Live. Good night.